Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the Red River Roundup right here on 446 Sports. My name is Marshall Leffler. I'm your host, and we are brought to you, as always, by the Gridiron Football USA All-American game that'll be taking place December 30th right here in Central Louisiana. I want to thank them for making this show happen for us today. And it's playoff time. We are through 10 weeks in the LHSAA. Had a lot of stuff that was decided last night, playoff seeding, first round buys, home games, some district championships. And like we mentioned on Friday's show yesterday, there were some seniors that walked off the field and took off the helmets and pads for the last time, whether it was senior night or whether it was just your last time suiting up for your school. That was the end of the road for some of those seniors last night. So we'll start off the show by saying salute to all those seniors who won't be playing any more football after last night. I hope that entire experience was everything that you wanted it to be, from your childhood all the way through your senior year. There's people like us. The reason we do these things is because we remember those memories that we had as high school athletes, and those are experiences that we took with us our whole lives, and that brings us where we are this morning, to where we're staying up late and getting up early and watching y'all play because we love this stuff so much. So again, hats off to everyone who finished their season last night, finished their football career last night, and a job well done. Whether you were made the playoffs or not, we're so thrilled and so proud that you, the players and the athletes, the students, make this league what it is. We've got playoff brackets that will be released tomorrow around noon from the LHSAA. Those will be the official playoff brackets, the official power ratings that will determine how those postseason brackets are going to start to shake out. What we can do is we'll take a look at some of the power ratings. These are brought to you by Louisiana Sportsline. They do a great job of keeping these power rankings updated all throughout the season, and they're made available for everyone to use. So we're going to take them up on their offer to use that and peek at those real quick. As you can see, Select Division I, Edna Carr, they've had a stronghold at the top of that bracket for the majority of the season, and even going back to last season, as they were able to win the state championship in that bracket. Turlings Catholic, who's been with us on 446 all season, they're also 10-0 in that bracket, so they'll take the 2 seed. Ash took a loss last night. This morning, that'll put them at the 5 seed. And again, I should mention, if I haven't already, some of this may change a little bit. There may be a few things that shift, a few decimal points that get rounded. But the guys at Louisiana Sportsline do a really, really good job of trying to figure out how this is going to go. So this is unofficial. This may change a little bit, but for the most part, we can kind of get a sense of where your team will be as far as a top 10 seed, a bye week seed, or whatever the case may be. So kind of looking at the rest of the top 10, St. Aug at number 3, Catholic at number 4, Tioga. They took their second loss on the road last night at Franklin Parish. So they're right behind Ash as the 6th seed. Then you see John Curtis, Evangel, St. Paul's, and St. Thomas More rounding out the top 10 there. Both St. Charles and Loyola College Prep got wins last night in Select Division II, so they'll hold on to those top 2 spots in that bracket. Lake Charles College Prep has had a great season. They are up at 3 this morning. They got a win last night to round out their regular season, so they actually jumped up a few spots, if I remember correctly. And then U-High in there at number 5. A lot of teams in this bracket that scheduled tough, so you didn't really see any undefeated teams here, just because, and mainly because of that, because a lot of those teams were on the road and against tough opponents in the non-district portion of their schedule. So didn't see any 10-0 records in that bracket, but a lot of good teams that will challenge there. Keeping going in the Select side, Select Division III, Lafayette Christian got a forfeit win in Week 10, so they didn't get to play that game on the field, but they did get that victory, and they'll hold on to the top seed in Select Division III, and they've looked like it all season if you've watched them play. Notre Dame, always a tough out in that bracket. They're the top 2 seed at 8-2. Jewel Sumner finished off an undefeated regular season, had a really tough matchup in week 10. We'll talk with the guys at North Shore Prep Report about that one here in just a minute. But they're up in the top 3 in their bracket, and then Dunham will round out the top 4 in that bracket. I've said this all season, Select Division III is year in and year out, and not even just football. This is typically one of the brackets that features some of the most talented teams in the state, regardless of class, regardless of division. It's a particularly tough and exciting playoff bracket to watch. Select Division III, and again, it's loaded with teams that'll be in the bracket there. So, and kind of rounding out, Calvary, they finish at 9-1. They win their district again. They're the 6th seed. Bunkie getting in there as the 8th seed at 9-1. The defending champs, Catholic New Iberia, there at 8-2. And again, that'll be a super exciting bracket to watch with a lot of talented teams. Looking at Division IV Select real quick, Westminster, the Crusaders, and Opelousas, they get an undefeated regular season record, so they'll hold on to the top seed there. Hamilton Christian also finished undefeated and won their district. OCS took a loss at Oak Grove in week 10. That was their first loss of the regular season. So they're sitting at 7 right now. And we've seen Southern Lab, who's done really well in that bracket. They won that tournament 2 years ago, and they're in there at number 10. So we'll keep an eye on the Kittens as they try to make a run back to the Dome there. Let's peek at non-select really quick, and we'll start back with Division I. Ruston getting a win last night against West Monroe to become the district champ in that district. It was kind of a carousel of who beat who, but Ruston comes up with wins over West Monroe in week 10, and so they'll get the number 1 seed there. Neville, they get a win at home against Ash last night, so they will currently hold to the 2 seed there. Destrehan, who lost to Ash earlier in the season, in there at number 3. And then a lot of teams from the Baton Rouge area will be excited to talk to Jace here in a minute about a lot of these Baton Rouge teams that are kind of dominating this bracket. And then you see West Monroe actually gets a top 10 seed at 7-3. All their losses were to some of these top-ranked teams. One of those was North DeSoto. North DeSoto finished off Thursday night with a district win, so they go in at 10-0. Iowa also undefeated in Division II non-select. Belle Chase has had a really strong season. Lakeshore will be a really tough out. We know that. And Bruley's been on a run. Franklinton, the runner-up from last year. So a lot of good teams in this bracket as well. Looking at Division III and IV real quick. Gina took one loss early on to Tioga, but other than that, they've looked really good in the regular season. They finished their district season strong, and they'll get another top seed. That's familiar territory for the Giants. Sterlington, a really tough team that I got to watch in person this week. They'll have the 2 seed. They're the defending champ in that bracket. St. James, the runner-up, also at 8-2. They'll come in as a 3 seed. Kinder able to finish an undefeated season. Erath as well. Oak Grove got a big win in week 10. Mansfield at 8-2. And I'll tell you this, between Mansfield, North DeSoto, and Logansport, teams in DeSoto Parish, all district champions, and they'll go their separate ways in the playoffs. But DeSoto Parish continues to play really good football. And Marksville, after taking a loss against Bunkie in the Catskin game, they are in at 9. And then peaking at Division IV non-select, Haynesville, an undefeated season. They rolled last night over Glenbrook. They'll finish at the top of that bracket. Mangum in there as number 2 as well. South Plaquemine, they're the defending champion in this bracket, beating Haynesville last December. They're in at 3. And a lot of these familiar teams in Division IV non-select will be right back there, and that's always exciting bracket to watch. And we'll keep an eye on that one as those playoff games start to shake out. So again, a lot of things to sort out. These are not the official ratings, but we're super, super appreciative of Louisiana Sports Line and the work those guys do. Now, of course, the time of year that everybody wants to pull this up and look at it, but they actually keep it going, midway through the regular season. And it's a great resource and gives us something to talk about. So those aren't the official ratings, but assuming that things pretty much stay how we think that they will, we'll keep an eye on those. And you see Hayden giving us some feedback there, and Hayden does a great job with those guys at Louisiana Sportsline, keeping that bracket updated. So keep an eye. If you just go to LouisianaSportsline.com today, tomorrow, just pull up that document. It's right there at the top, and it's a Google Doc that updates throughout the day. So keep an eye on that one before the official ones come out, and you'll be just as informed as anybody in the state. And again, one more shout out to Louisiana Sportsline, because those guys really do a good job of giving us some things to discuss throughout the regular season. A couple of these teams that we discussed, we mentioned Jules Sumner, mentioned Lakeshore, Franklinton, a lot of these teams from the North Shore that are used to be in single-digit seeds, they'll get their playoff journey started this week. So we're going to bring on from the North Shore Prep Report Mike Cullen, and we'll also bring in Cass Hargis, who's with the North Shore Prep Report, and also the Talkin' Ball Y'all show that takes place on Sunday nights and Tuesday nights. So Cass and Mike, really glad to have y'all on this morning. Let's start, if we can, again with 6-5A. St. Paul's getting a win over Covington last night. They've kind of quietly worked on and kind of climbed to the top of the mountain of the North Shore as far as the 5A schools go. But both of those teams will get set to get started in the playoffs here.
Yeah, Mike, you want to go first?
Yeah, I'll tip it off. Really exciting night in 6-5A. Obviously, the big game of the night was Covington playing at St. Paul's. Big rivalry game, playing for the Little Brown Jug. Really impressive win for St. Paul's. Not just getting the win, but the way they won. They ran the ball extremely well. I think Cody Corrales had 11 carries, over 100 yards again. Brady Pearson, their quarterback, very efficient. Some like 4 of 6 or 5 of 7. Threw for a touchdown. And then Adam Connell, who we featured a little bit last week, kind of a fullback H-back for them, had a really good game on the ground as well. But impressive overall. Covington loses there, which, we've been high on Covington all season, but it looks like they do sneak into the playoffs here. So that's big for Coach Salter and that group. They're going to be a tough out for anybody because, it's been the up and down of Covington all season, right, Cass? I mean, you don't know what Covington team's going to show up, but they're extremely talented on both sides of the ball.
Yep. Yeah, no, that's for sure. And, just to go back to St. Paul's, and they're in that Division I select bracket, which every time you look at it seems to just get deeper and deeper. But as it stands right now, they'll host Pineville as the 9 seed and then travel to Evangel. This is a team in St. Paul's that as a team, they rushed for over 300 yards. Last night, like you said, Mike Corrales went for over 100. I think that every game this year he's rushed for at least 100 yards. And they just win. They win that district. They schedule tough. Like they're very interesting heading into the playoffs. And in Covington, you don't want to see those guys in the first round. They've been up and down as they start to figure out things on offense. That defense is so talented that they can keep them into any game. The two on this graphic here that I am most intrigued in seeing is Hammond and Mandeville. Hammond, Coach Buckles and that crew, they've done a great job. They get a big win over rival Ponchatoula last night. They're going to host the first-round playoff game. But Mandeville, with Crew Calora at quarterback, he's a freshman. He's gotten better each week. This is a staff at Mandeville with Coach Jones that they just win everywhere they go, and they know what it takes to win at this time of the year. Mandeville, they're going to have to travel first round of the playoffs, but that's a team that with the right breaks and the right side of the bracket can definitely make a run. They've gotten better each week out.
And Hammond in there is the 13 seed in Select Division I, and Cass, you're familiar with that area for sure. That'll be a really great challenge for the Tours. That great for them to have that regular season that got them this seed.
No, absolutely. And, looking at, and I heard you shouting out Louisiana Sports Line. I might have gone to that website a million times this fall. Those guys do such a good job. But just looking at where it is now and what's interesting in that Division One select bracket is it's obviously the big district there down here. It's the Catholic League, but a lot of those teams are kind of going to be jumbled up and play each other. So Hammond may be able to avoid one of the top Catholic League teams, and they may find themselves in a round 3 playoff game. So it'll be interesting. And that Mike, what they got our favorite player, Donut back there, returning. Yeah, Donut. He is an electrifying player with the ball in his hands. That's a scary team.
Yeah, Reginald Monroe, he's really talented. I'll tell you what's really impressive, and I have to give credit to Coach Buckles and that crew. It's really exciting for them to have the season they've had, and won some big district games, get to host a playoff game. But what's interesting is 2 weeks ago, Hammond played at Covington, and it didn't go well, and they lost that game. But they're in the game the whole time, and they throw 3 interceptions in the fourth quarter. Well, since then, Taron Jones has kind of been on a tear, their quarterback. He's a junior, but he's in his third year starting. He's really impressive, and he's got some weapons around him. They can run the ball really well with Zaylen Bennett. So I look forward to Hammond kind of making a run. They play defense really well. Obviously, Dorset Buckles is a defensive guy, but that's an exciting one. And to add, I think what Coach Jones and Mandeville and that crew have done now is they figured out what Crew Calor can do really well. And they've based it around him, and they've got some weapons that people don't know about. Luke DeMello's done really a job at wide receiver. Jake Giacchetti, kind of a slot kid that's really fast. And Mandeville, they haven't played great on defense this year, but you always know that they're going to be sound on defense. So I like the matchup no matter what happens. I think they can make noise in the playoffs.
So, Mike, you think Mandeville is one of those? We see it every single year. It may be Division I, it may be Division III. You see one of those 6 and 4 teams that everybody kind of elbowing each other, saying, "Watch out for Team X." Is Mandeville that one of those 6 and 4 teams this year?
Well, look, I always say this: coaching in high school wins ball games, and Cass touched on this, and it's true. Coach Jones and that staff, they've won everywhere they've gone, right? They understand what the playoffs look like. They prepare for the playoffs all season. It's not just a matter of getting ready for the playoffs in the playoffs. They know what it's like to be there. They know what it's like to make a run. It's hard for me to say, hey, this team with a freshman quarterback's really going to make a run in 5A non-select. However, he's not a freshman. I mean, the kid, he's basically a sophomore now, but he's played like a junior all season. So, it's time for me to stop calling him a freshman. Probably it's probably on me more than anything else.
Yeah, I would be totally fine with watching Crew Calor take the Skippers on a run. That would be exciting to see. Let's take a peek at District 7 5A. We saw that Salmon, Slidell, and got some wins there last night. Of course, Mandeville going out of district and getting a win there. But another 5A district where, again, just tough battles all year long. No one's going to come out there undefeated, but that's not to be unexpected.
Yeah, this was awesome last night. I'll let Cass touch on this, man. But you had 4 2-1 teams going into last night. And two games where they each played each other. Chalmette and Salmon, it's kind of turned into this rivalry game. And Slidell and North Shore is a long-standing rivalry game. I'll touch on the first game first. Chalmette and Salmon. You talked about Mandeville kind of making a run, a team. I look at Salmon in a very similar fashion. If not, I might give them an edge on going to make a little run. The reason why, their quarterback, Dejon Howard, he's going to be one of the best around. He's a junior. He's really turned it on. He scrambled for a 35-yard touchdown last night, 35-yard, with about 30 seconds left in the game to win that ball game. But they can throw it. They've got weapons on the outside. Once again, they have a great running back, Jimmy Chansey, who's a bigger kid. He's 205 pounds. He runs downhill and he can run away. It's all about, to me, and Cass, you can elaborate on this, but for the North Shore, it's who can make a stop, right? I mean, the teams that have made stops when they need to, nobody's actually played dominant defense. Like Chalmette all year was that team, and then as of late, they've given up a lot of yards, but then it's what team can make a stop. And before you say that, touch on that, Cass, one thing I have to say is travesty for a team like Chalmette not to be in the playoffs. Like that's a hard one because they're very talented. They had a great season. And look, power rankings are power rankings. You didn't play well enough. That is what it is. I just hate it for some of those kids because they are really talented and they could have made a run.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that was the game of the night too. Chalmette traveling to Salmon for what was on the line, not just in district, but going into it. We talked. The losing team may not make the playoffs, and that looks like that's what's going to happen. But man, Chalmette had a 10-point lead with 4 minutes left in the game. And like you said, Mike, Dejon Howard leads a touchdown drive to score with a little bit more than a minute left. They recover an onside kick, and then he scores again to win the game. Like, that's heartbreaking. And on the Chalmette side, that defense, like you said, we've talked as it's one of the best defenses in the area. And just, for whatever reason, the last 2 weeks against Slidell and Salmon, they've given up. Slidell, it was more giving up a lot of points. And the Salmon, it was just giving up points at the wrong time. But, for them not to make the playoffs, that's tough. And we can get into the playoff talk later. But I almost think that's almost like a good thing in the sense that I think the playoff brackets are about as balanced and competitive as we can get them. So while you hate to see someone like Chalmette not make the playoffs, like there's some validity in running through that bracket. But Salmon, Dejon Howard, this running attack they have, and Coach Shooter, this is a team that they've jumped up to 20 in the power rankings. Again, it's going to depend on the draw, but that's an offense that can go score. And if a defense can get enough stops, they have a chance to win a game or two. No,
it's an exciting one. And look, moving to the Slidell game, Slidell goes to North Shore and kind of handles business there. I mean, that game's not close. Now, I did hear that Ramon Williams for North Shore did not play in that game, so that's a huge blow for Coach Sanders and that crew. He's been one of the best running backs in the area, this season. The biggest thing to me in that game, and the reason why I really like Slidell is defensively they've gotten older throughout the season. They're starting to play better. But Jaquan Jones, their running back, he runs for, I don't know, 230 last night on 20 carries, something like that. He can run it with the best of them. He's probably one of the best receivers they have on the backfield. Carlos Flemings had a good game last night at wide receiver. Stanley Lang did start that game at quarterback. And then Ricky Williams came in late. Everybody knows that Ricky was kind of at the top of the standings all season until the last couple of weeks he didn't play. But Ricky comes in late and he goes 6 for 6 for over 100 yards and 2 touchdowns. So, that's a Slidell offense that can really score it. Same thing. If they can make some stops, playoff football, Cass, we'll laugh about this, but, I've always said that playoff football, you have to be able to run the ball and you have to be able to play defense. But I think over the years, it's turned into sometimes you just have to outscore the other guy, right? Yeah. And what I like about these teams is they've got the ability to go score when they need to.
No, I think that's absolutely right. Like, you have to get stops at important points in a game, but it has turned into, let's try to go see if we can outscore them. And maybe Slidell being without their starting quarterback, Ricky Williams, the last 2 weeks, that might prove to be a good thing. They may have found something with playing both quarterbacks. I mean, that's an impressive number. Obviously, you have the running game with Jaquan, but if they can score, I mean, they're putting up 42 on North Shore. That, again, it's another team that's going to be a low seed. I think right now they're at 22. That's a scary draw in the first round for someone to have to go play.
I wouldn't want to do it.
No, especially what they've. I mean, you got to prepare for 2 quarterbacks. You got to prepare for a running game that's going to come right at you. Like, that's a tough ask.
Oh yeah.
Had a comment in from Slidell. Ramon actually did play last night, just didn't get a lot of snaps, so was a reduced factor there, but a good win for Slidell. Good. Looking at 4A, and I was actually got to talk with Luke Delafield a bit over the week about this bracket and some of the teams in there. Coming from the North Shore area, at this point, everybody has got their eye out for Lakeshore and Franklinton in this bracket, but Titans had a really good matchup against Hahnville in Week 10, but non-select Division II really is some of the best playoff football that you see with some of those talented 4A schools.
Yeah, no doubt. We've pumped up this district for quite a while. I met with Coach Salt, in the summer, and all he could talk about was how talented it is, and you kind of see that. First and foremost, every team in the district's in the playoffs, right? So that's a big one. Cass,
On the non-select side, I think we're
on,
going to be the last team out.
do you think so?
I think so.
Oh
I think
gosh,
so.
I did my public school math might have got me, but
No, that's all good. No, it's going to be very, very close, but I think we're going to end up being the last team out.
okay. Well, look, let's give Hannon and Coach Soper some credit. I'll say this, and Coach Soper said it a couple weeks ago on our show. He said he goes home, his wife's the sounding board, and her question is always, is it better, right? And I'll say this, they've been a really good football team all year.
Mm-hmm.
They've played well. They've done what they need to do basically in the first half, which kind of to me points a little bit to numbers, right? And some depth and what you can do there. But they once again, they play Franklinton really close in the first half. Franklinton they've got some guys, man. They play really well. I have to give Hunter Lay some credit last night. For Hannon, he has 14 catches for 152 yards. Braden Sprang had a good game, defensively. And I'll say this, we'll have some stuff in the offseason, but Hannon's got virtually everybody back in the playmaking ability. They'll lose Grayson Dupree, which would be huge, but they've got a lot of guys back. Franklinton, to me, is one of the most intriguing teams in the playoffs. And the reason I say that is I think they have what it takes to get there because they can play offense. They're always going to improve on defense, and they're physical. They've given up some yards this year. But with Jacob Crane at quarterback, they've got two wide receivers that I think are two of the best in the state. They've started to run the ball a little bit better, and they know what it looks like. They know what it feels like, and I think that's so valuable for a team like that.
Absolutely, and I was going to say just that with Franklinton, what the ceiling is. With all those guys, especially Jacob Crane and obviously Coach Salt being at the helm after that Superdome run last year, that starts to show itself in the playoffs, I think, around round 3. When you get to Thanksgiving and you obviously you're off of school, the games obviously become more important each time you win, but that experience can really show itself the deeper you get into the playoffs. And this is a Franklinton team that if they can get to that round 3, that experience, and then obviously the playmaking ability they have and the explosiveness they have on offense can really shine through. But they can win games just because they have a coach that's been there before, they have a quarterback that's been there before, and they know what it looks like. And it's kind of similar for Lakeshore as a team. It's new guys. It's the same staff that was there last year. They run into Franklinton. They lose a game in overtime in round 3. It wouldn't be surprising if these two teams, and I think right now they're on the same side of the bracket, if these two teams meet again in the semifinals. Like that would be like a great theater. But this district it's deep. There's no easy outs. I'm a pump up Coach Soper again. Like the job that he has done with that program is been unbelievable. And look, we had chances early in the year to win 2 games against Catholic Point Coupee and Covenant Christian that we lose by 1 in overtime, 1 by a point. If you win one of those 2, you're in the playoffs. You win both, you're looking at something higher. But the fact that we were in that position speaks to the job that he has done. And there's a lot of guys that are coming back for this Hannon team too. So the future is definitely bright. But this district is tough.
Yeah, no, that's exciting. We have to give some credit to Coach Powell at Laranja. His first year as a head coach, they're in the dance, and you can't dance unless you're on the dance floor, and they're in. So credit.
They're going to be the last team. They're the 24 seed as it stands now. So they'll travel. Yeah. They'll travel to St. Michael's, and look, if they can get Ryland James healthy and that running game can get going,
they're different.
They're
different with Ryland. I mean, he makes he reminds me a lot of Mandeville last year with their running back. He can make up for a lot of things. And then Pearl River, another good game. Thursday night they get the win. And Pearl River's an intriguing one because they can run the ball. They're physical as heck, and they've got a coach that can really coach it. He knows what it looks like too.
He knows what he's doing.
Lastly, on Lakeshore, I'll say this: Coach Indes is one of the best around. He's continued to prove it year in and year out. I think he was probably a little disappointed. They were at the number 2 seed, and they needed some things to go well. But, they play a very good Hahnville team to a 28-21 loss, and that's a really, really close game. I mean, I'm enamored with Coach Indes in that group because of what they do and how they do it. I just think they're primed to go make a run because of who they are and how they're coached.
Yeah, I agree, and I think in particular, like they get one of the best playoff type games in week 10. They wrap up the district in week 9, but that's a one possession loss to Honville, but take that loss in week 10 and then don't lose another one. So that's a great way for them to spend that week. Let's look at 8-3A and Jules Sumner with the undefeated season. They got to be that's I'm sure that's where we got to start with those guys.
Look, super proud of Coach Career in that group. They are now 20-2 in the last two seasons, right, at Jules Sumner. So very, very impressive. He's a legacy guy. His family's coached around that area for a long time. They have some extremely talented kids that not a lot of people know about. Jamon Dyson, a running back, he plays like slot wing back in that wing T offense. He can run it. Like he's a big time player. Their quarterback can throw it. They did that last night. They get out to a 14-0 lead. Look, Drew Palmer for A-Meat. He's a good quarterback. Sumner makes a great play last night on a fumble forced of his that they get some yardage on and score on. It's a 21-7 game, but it's 14-7. A-Meat's got talent. I mean, A-Meat, they're very well coached. Jabyron Dillon, great running back. They got Franklin Morgan Jr., who's a Louisiana Tech commit, who can take it to the house on special teams and defense. I'm excited for both these guys, but have to give a special shout out to Coach Career and Jules Sumner on an undefeated regular season, and that top 3 seed that goes a long way.
Yeah, and I think we've said this the last couple of times we've been together, Mike, but I think it's time to stop saying that they're the most overlooked 20-2 team over the last 2 years. Like, to start looking at them. That's so impressive what they've done, and to do it. It felt like, and they beat A-Meat last year, but it felt like for them to get to 10-0, like it only felt right for them to go to A-Meat and win the game. Like, that's what they had to do. But this is another team. I kind of look at them similar to how I see Lakeshore with the offense that they run and how physical they are. This is a team as a 3 seed that can really go deep into the playoffs, because that running attack with Dyson, like they can put up points. This is a team that really can play deep. That honestly, I don't know how many people have even noticed, but it's time to start taking notice of this Jules Sumner team. And on the other side, A-Meat knows how to win. They know how to win in November. They're so talented. They're always talented, so they can play deep as well. But this was extremely impressive for Jules Sumner, not just to win the game, but to hold A-Meat to 7 points.
Yeah, and look, I was going to say, I'll got to credit North Shore Prep Report here for the coverage of Sumner, because Cass, you mentioned them being overlooked. Well, North Shore Prep Report made us all look. So, and we've liked what we've seen from the Cowboys.
Well, look, I think Pine's an interesting one as well. Very, very experienced team, very experienced coach. They got a senior quarterback. They run the same type offense. Christian Williams, their running back linebacker is very good. Caden Stogner, linebacker. They've got some skilled players, and they've got some talent, and they're that 8-3A type team, man. They'll punch you in the mouth and play hard. So, I look forward to those guys in the playoffs making a little noise as well.
All right, let's peek at District 9 2A, finish up with the North Shore here. North Lake Christian, they bounced back in Week 10 with a big win. St. Helena gets another win to finish off the season. And then St. Thomas Aquinas finishes off their regular season with a loss at Prairie View.
Well, look, first and foremost, St. Helena, 4-0 in district champs. Kudos to those guys. That young man, his last name's Baker, their quarterback, phenomenal young kid. He's a sophomore. Watch out for him. He's 6'3", 165 pounds. He can run it and sling it. He's actually second in the area in passing stats, so we'll see that this week. We'll have him updated and get him in there. But they have a huge win at Pope John Paul, and I'll be honest with you, I thought that was there for the taking for Pope because of how they run and what they do. But St. Helena, they got some confidence last week against North Lake Christian, and they go into Pope and handle business. I have to say this, thanks for Coach Brian Babin over at Pope for keeping me updated after our game. But he said they had at least 50 penalties and 35 stoppages for cramps. So it was a very, very humid Week 10 on the North Shore. And then look, moving to the Independence North Lake Christian game, North Lake Christian, obviously I know a lot about them, but they're an intriguing one because when they do what they do well, they're very talented, and they've got skill players that can match up with anybody. If the offensive line plays well and they can run the ball, that's who they are. Big nights last night for Cam Casnave. He's over 5,000 yards on his career, which he's had a phenomenal career at Northlake Christian. Jordan Willis had 4 touchdowns in the first half, 2 rushing and 2 receiving. Sam Grant, quarterback, played well. Max Millett, great baseball player. He's actually committed to Nunez. He had 2 interceptions. He returned 1 for a touchdown, but that was a great game for them. And Coach Messina, he'll have Independence back on track. So, you'll see that. And then for Coach Nunez over at St. Thomas Aquinas, rough year 1. And I'm not going to say you saw it coming, but you kind of understand it, right? But, he's going to turn the page and he'll get that program back on track.
Yeah, and I think if just picking up on that last point with St. Thomas Aquinas, I think the biggest victory for STA this year was the fact that there seems to be some stability there now with Coach Nunez, and there's guys out there. I think they had upwards of almost 55 players on the team. So that program's trending in the right direction. St. Helena, they're always talented. They've always had talent. That program's kind of gone through spurts where they'll have 2 or 3 really good years, then they kind of come back down. This may be one of those years that they're on the upswing. And when we talked about this game, Mike, we said if it was gonna turn into somewhat of a shootout, St. Helena was going to be the team that won. Coach John Paul wanted to keep this game probably in the teens and limit possessions, and St. Helena was just too much offensively. Northlake Christian, and obviously you know a lot about them. I've seen them up close and personal in this Division III select bracket, which is so balanced and so deep. Marshall, I know you talked about it before we hopped on about this bracket specifically. Always one of the more competitive ones. Northlake just lurking down there at the 11 seed right now. They're going to give somebody problems because they're big, they're physical, they can run it right at you. They're athletic enough to make some things happen. So interesting if they could put it all together. They can make a run here. Obviously, it's going to depend on matchups in that bracket. But, man, just looking at this Division III select bracket, it's deep and it's tough.
Yeah, and again, I've coached in that bracket for several years, and you just always see programs every round of that playoff bracket. North Shore Prep Report, Mike McMillan, Cass Hargis. Cass also does the Talking Ball Y'all show, but if you're watching this show, you definitely watch that show, and you should. Sunday nights and Tuesday nights. Also, Cass and Mike will be previewing everything on the North Shore from here on out through football season. And if you're not into football, doesn't matter what sport on the North Shore, stick with those guys. Volleyball, basketball, baseball, softball, whatever. They're going to keep you caught up on that. Cass and Mike, man, thank y'all so much for hanging out with us. And, again, I'll be bothering y'all all week long like I always do.
Bring it on, dude. This was awesome. Thanks for having us.
Yeah, Marshall, appreciate everything you do. Look, before I jump off, got to give credit to Coach Scott and my Destrehan Wildcats, man. District championship last night. Looks like they've gotten a pretty good seed now, and that tough schedule they played early is going to pay off for them. They're playing really well right now. So
I think Dabney just ran for another touchdown.
Yeah.
We'll see if we can get those power ratings updated with that. Then. Appreciate it.
That's right. And then look, I do have to give St. Aug credit. They went into John Curtis and kind of did their thing. Yeah. So that's a very good John Curtis football team. I wouldn't be surprised to see that matchup later in the playoffs too.
Nope, same here.
All right, Mike McMillan, Cass Hargis, North Shore Prep Report. Thanks, guys. Talk to you soon.
Yeah.
All right, and we will jump straight to Southwest Louisiana and Chasten Tavares, who is going to catch us up on everything in the Southwest Louisiana area. And Chasten, before I start, we big prediction out of you. We had this custom made here at the Red River Roundup. We spared no expense. This is your championship belt. This is the Southwest Louisiana, the master, the champion, the greatest of all time, Chasten Tavares, who called it in week 3 that Hamilton Christian, Kinder, and Iowa would all go undefeated. It was a bold prediction. They say it couldn't be done, but we never should have doubted you. The belt is yours. This will be in the trophy case waiting for you. And again, we spared no expense getting that made for you. But what a call. And it played out just like you thought it might.
Yeah, it did. Thanks for having me as always. Look, and I think we've talked about it every single week that the track just continued to go. Look, when you looked at their schedule back then, it kind of it played into their hands a little bit. Not two tough districts. The non-district schedule not too crazy. So to me, that wasn't too hard of a decision, especially with some of the guys that they have on that squad, on those squads. I mean, look, both of those teams, all three of those teams are littered with talent. I mean, Javon Vital for Hamilton, Isaiah Thomas, Brandon Perkins, guys like that for Kinder, and then obviously Jeremiah Bushnell, Caston Lewis, Javian Adams for Iowa. So those teams, look, no doubt they're at the top of the power ratings and hoping to go deep in the playoffs.
And looking, so another team that you've kind of kept us up on is Lake Charles College Prep. They really made a nice jump in the power ratings last night. That's a tough bracket for them in Select Division II. And you mentioned earlier this week the offense is there, and they did it again in Week 10. I guess defense will be the key for them once they end up going against some of those top seeds in that bracket.
Yeah, look, it all starts with Aiden Carter. He's got over 2,000 yards rushing in, I think, 8 games because he didn't really play the first game, and there was one game he didn't play very much. So he's got over 2,000 yards rushing in 8 games, which is pretty impressive. It is defensively is the key. They sometimes find ways to make games closer than they should be. And that's not a great thing. I get to every time I talk to Coach Franklin, I tell him, I said, boy, you survived again. And he said, yeah, these guys, they give me all these gray hairs on the top of my head. But look, anytime you can start with that offense and what they've been able to do, and look, really a credit to what Coach Franklin and company has been able to do, because look, they haven't had Dylan Vital, their star quarterback, their star player, since Week 1. When he went out with the injury, season ender, he's had to have season-ending surgery there after Week 1. So kudos to Coach Franklin, because they've done a heck of a job, rewriting the ship and really coming away with an 8-2, and they're going to get a top 4 seed in the Division Division 2 select playoffs.
And saw Barb sneak in there with a 5-5 record. They're in the playoffs, and a lot of that just goes to scheduling. So other than some of these teams that have just been, super successful, district championships, undefeated, what teams in your area, Jennings, Barb, teams like that, do you think could be tough outs in the postseason?
Yeah, look, Barb is interesting, and look, that was another team who made a huge jump last night to get in. Obviously, they get the win over Sam Houston. That game was kind of chaotic. Just lots of points in that game. I think they win 70-49, which is just chaos. Barb is interesting because look, they can score. I mean, they're averaging like 50 points a game. Defensive is the problem. They can't stop you and I. If we're playing 2-on-11, I mean that's no slouch. I mean, it is obviously a slouch. They just can't play defense.
I'm a pretty good receiver. I can maybe get.
Yeah, I mean, I think I could probably get you the football. We could do something here. We could score a touchdown. I would give us that. Barb is interesting. Like I said, they can score points. Jalandon Gray, when you can start with Jay Gray, that's a pretty good start. He's now got offers from Nichols and McNeese. He's a lot of fun to watch. He's got 35 plus total touchdowns on the year. So that they'll be interesting to watch. Obviously, they're gonna have to go and take on the 6 seed or whatever, the 5 seed, and that's gonna be a tough matchup for them, likely in the first round of the playoffs. But I would not want to see them on the other side just because of what they can do offensively. If they fight anything defensively, they should be able to do something. Jennings, you mentioned right there, Jennings is an interesting team as well. They're trying to find it with Chris Ned and Humphrey Ned, and I think they're hanging around that 9 seed. Vinton and DeQuincy are interesting ones for me because that was a game last night for the Big Cat Classic in which Vinton and DeQuincy back and forth, obviously huge rivals. They're going back and forth all night long. It's 14-14 late, under 2 minutes. DeQuincy, who undefeated in district, didn't have a great non-district slate. They didn't do well. A minute and a half to go in the game. They kick a field goal to take the lead 17-14. Literally, there's a minute and 20 seconds to play in the game, and Vinton has to drive all the way down the field. They get a touchdown with 20 seconds to go, and then a game-sealing interception. Vinton's able to grab one out of the air to win that football game and get the win and get their first district championship since 2006.
Wow.
Yeah, so good stuff there from Coach Tyler Laverne.
That's awesome.
Coach Tyler Laverne's done a good job, but that's a team that I think can really do something. And DeQuincy, look, maybe they've found something that's shaping up. They actually could have a rematch in the first round of the playoffs. I think it's like 10-24, 8-24, or something like that. Right now, I think DeQuincy, depending on which one you look at, it's at 25 and it's at 8. So that could be a first round matchup that we get to see again, which would be chaotic.
Speaking of chaotic, I'm sure the Pigskin Preview will take on exactly that persona in the playoffs. So what's the plan for that? We'll still be doing a weekly show to just preview everything in the postseason, or how will that program take shape?
Yeah, that's certainly the case, and chaotic is one word to put it. I tell you what, we've had some kudos to the fan base. This is the first year we've done that, and I did not know how it would go. Just we had never done the show before. I mean, so it wasn't like we built an audience. It was, we're going to start this show, and some dummy said, "Hey, let's go to Walk-Ons and do the show too in our first year." So and look, it's been incredible. Last Wednesday night we had a 2-night doubleheader this week with Kinder and Vols and Iowa and DeRidder hosting 2 of the 9-0 teams. And look, I think like 45 minutes prior to the show, we were out of room. They were setting them outside and all that stuff. It was it was chaos, and it was awesome. But yeah, we're gonna sit down and make a plan. We'll obviously figure out who we're gonna do next week, because we have not done that yet. And we'll figure out who we're gonna do next week, and then we'll kind of go from there. Hopefully, it'll be a massive playoff preview. We'll jam everything into 1 hour.
Well, get some rest today. Get through college football Saturday, and I'm sure it'll be a great crowd. Again, it's Chasten DeVars and Patrick Fry of the Southwest Louisiana Pigskin Preview Wednesday at the Walk-Ons in Lake Charles. It's a great way to get prepped for those games, especially if you're like me, not from that area. It's a good way for me to kind of get tuned in on what they're looking at down in that area. In the Lake Charles area. So Chasten, we'll see if we can get this belt to you. I think we spent all our budget on production, so shipping may be an issue, but you earned it, you deserved it, and you are the king of the Lake Charles area, sir.
There it is. Appreciate you guys as always.
Thank you, Chasten. Talk to you soon.
You as well.
Yeah, Chasten with a great call on Kinder, Hamilton, and Iowa all going undefeated. And they did that. Some teams that are really not going to go undefeated every year are up in District 2-5A, and there's no better person to talk to us about that district than Sean Fox, Sports Talk 97.7 in the North Delta Ramble. And Sean, Neville got a Week 10 game at home. They took care of business on Forsyth Avenue, and I didn't really see any detail other than the score, but Neville put it on the Trojans.
Well, first of all, I want to name myself #1 contender for the title. I just want to put that out there in Chasten. So
let me find a pen. I'll write that down somewhere.
I want to be the #1 contender for the belt. That's a good strap. Look, I got to be honest, Marshall. Like, I kind of favored Ash a little bit. I'm not shocked that Neville won, but I'm kind of shocked the way that Neville dominated, because I think if you go through all 3 phases, offense, defense, special teams, coming into this game, I thought Ash was the most balanced of any team. But it goes to show you how razor thin this district is. And I mean, it's crazy to say out loud that, Neville lost to Ruston, but Ruston beats West Monroe. West Monroe beats Ash. Ash beats Ruston. Ouachita is probably the best 1-win team in the district in the entire state of Louisiana. And they were 1-score games against all the heavy hitters. They blow out Pineville. This district, and again, I know everybody's kind of got a bias from their corner of the state. I think I do, but I also think I call it like I see it. Outside of the Catholic League, they're the only ones who could say they have a district like 2-5A.
Yeah.
And I think Carr has kind of separated themselves as the team. Look, nobody's gonna beat Carr. It is what it is. They're on a level to themselves. But as far as balance and top teams, there's nobody like 258. Now to the game last night. A lot of people wrote off Neville after they blew that 17-point lead in the fourth quarter against Ruston. They have started peaking at the right time, and I thought the defense was going to be one of the strengths. They've got Division I guys at all three levels of that defense. They really hadn't played like it until last week against West Monroe. We saw what West Monroe did last night against Rust. Even though they lost, scored 44 points, had 5 rushing touchdowns. Neville held them in check. It was 2 trick plays by West Monroe that basically were the only West Monroe scores last night. They carried that momentum over against Ash last night. I know Carson Sellers is a wonderful quarterback, but they're balanced, and they didn't get a running game. So they're pretty much one-dimensional, and the strength of Neville is that secondary. 31-14 doesn't really show the dominance. It was the exact opposite of last year, and what's happened is Neville's gotten healthy at the right time. They had some injuries up front on the offensive line. They had some injuries on defense. Versus Washita was the first game back that Mike Collins really had since the Calvary game. His guys he had in mind to start this year. And Parker Robinson's had a great year, but Neville's always been known for a running attack. It hadn't been there. I mean, this offense kind of felt like LSU's offense for most of the season. You were relying on your quarterback with no running game. That has completely changed the last 3 weeks. They got a sophomore running back, Jarvis Blackstone, who is a bowling ball. And go back and watch the highlights. He had a touchdown run last night when it was 14-0 that I think all 11 Ash players had hand on him. He got out of it and had a 41-yard touchdown. Their other running back, Roberson, has found his stride. I think they had 350 total yards last night. They're just clicking, and they are hot at the right time. And, again, a lot of people wrote them off 3 weeks ago. Neville is peaking right now.
Yeah, writing off Neville, yeah, that's a fool's errand. And, again, semifinal team last year, so that's a great win for them momentum-wise. And I guess if you're Ash, you just take that one and keep moving. Another one that I wanted to get your thoughts on from that area, Oak Grove over OCS.
Yeah.
So that was OCS's first loss, and it's easy to say, that that's some exposure or anything like that. I've been high on them just watching what they've done in some of their dominating wins and just the talent that they have. Obviously that's huge for Oak Grove. They're going to be a top 10 seed in non-select Division III. OCS at 9-1 will stay a top 10 seed in select Division IV. But what do both of those programs take from that game? Because again, like we mentioned a few minutes ago in another segment, like a Week 10 matchup like that can really be perfect before you start the postseason.
No, it is, and I think you can say the same thing. That's why Union and Sterlington have played at the end of the season the last couple of years. Unfortunately, that game for Union didn't go as it normally does, which is a great football game. It wasn't this past week.
But to your point, last year that was the loss that Sterlington needed because they went on a run from there and took the trophy home.
Well, and again, I kind of laid out all the 2-5A teams beating up each other. This what happens with Oak Grove and OCS kind of goes to show that A plus B doesn't always equal C. Sometimes it's about matchups because I thought after last year, OCS was in the same situation. They were undefeated, playing at home. Oak Grove comes to town, and Oak Grove beats the brakes off of them. I'm like, okay, well, Oak Grove is still Oak Grove, but I don't know if they're as good as last year. I think this OCS team is better. And Mangum went into Oak Grove and won by 3 or 4 touchdowns. OCS goes into Mangum, wins by 3 or 4 touchdowns. So you're doing the math in your head. All right, OCS probably going to go into Oak Grove. Might not blow them out, but should win. Man, it all starts up front. And Oak Grove, from the very beginning, the opening drive, set the tone, and they just smashed it down OCS's throat for 4 quarters. Oak Grove always has a strong running game. They've got one of the most electric players in our area, and Patrick Hill. I don't think he gets enough talk. I don't think he's big enough to maybe play at the next level, but he is a human joystick. He is a lot of fun to watch. He had a big game. OCS cut the lead to 20-7, and then Oak Grove answers with a kickoff, and that seemed to deflate OCS. Again, kind of like Neville, I think Oak Grove's playing their best football at the right time. But again, last year was a down year for OCS, Marshall, and they still played for the championship. Last year, OCS lost to Oak Grove big. They still played for the championship. I think both teams, none of us are going to be shocked if they're on the carpet in the Superdome in mid-December.
Yeah, I love OCS's roster. I think they have what it takes to be just as strong as they usually do. But I'll get you out of here on one more question. But For anybody who wants more of this, 10 to 11 on sportstalk977.com. Sean will bring you the high school football rewind. They've got a ton of teams to cover just in between, Ouachita, Lincoln Parish, that area right there. But they'll get you caught up from, like we said, Vivian to Lake Providence on the I-20 corridor. They'll get you recapped on all those games and preview the playoffs. So what did I miss from the teams that you cover as far as looking at the postseason?
Well, I think Franklin Parish and Tioga last night. I kind of shocked that Franklin Parish won the way that they did. Not that they did win, but look, I know they got the receiver Johnson from Tioga, who's awesome. Tioga's been a great story this year, but one team has Des Ellis, the other one doesn't. And Des Ellis had a pick six as well as what he does. Of course, he's going to play defensive back at LSU. That one was surprising. The offense in Ruston, West Monroe, there was 1,000 yards of total offense last night. And I think this is pretty significant news. We know about Ahmad Hudson for Ruston, but Dalen Powell, the sophomore running back, I think has kind of been the engine for this team. He had 4 touchdowns in the first half, a kickoff return and a punt return. He suffered what could be a bad ankle injury. I know he didn't play in the second half and was on crutches. If they don't have him in the postseason, that could be a big blow for Ruston.
Yeah, I had to keep an eye on that. And I mean, Ruston been a dome team, going back several years now. So that'll certainly be one to watch on. Appreciate the update there. High school football rewind, 10 a.m. this morning. Sean and Dave will cut up and bring you everything from that area. And Fox, man, I appreciate your time so much, as always.
Hey, brother, appreciate you. I'm proud of you. Keep killing it. Hey, I want to get you on the sports company this week to talk some high school football, so let's make it happen.
Tell me when. Just don't tell my boss.
I got you, buddy. Appreciate you.
Thanks, Sean. Sean Fox, sportstalk977.com and the North Delta Ramble, keeping us recap. They've got so many good teams to cover this season, as they always do. Let's take a trip down to Lafayette to the 337 and bring on Shannon Belt from the Lafayette Daily Advertiser and 337 Preps. And Shannon, you had both Thursday nights and Friday nights on the sideline this week. Tell us what you saw and tell us what you think after 10 weeks in the regular season.
It's been a quick, fast 10 weeks. I feel like my first year didn't go this fast, but this second year just flew by, and soon we're already going to be talking about the Dome pretty soon. But Thursday night I was at Westgate High. Westgate faced Como. I thought it was going to be a closer match, and I think it would have been if Como's Jaden Celestine was able to play the whole game. He went down in about, I want to say, the first quarter of the game, and that took all of Como's offense with it. So Westgate rolled past them for I think it was 42-7, if I'm not mistaken. And that kind of punched their ticket. And I started the season at Westgate, so they won that first game, but then after that, they kind of dropped the next 4. So they were kind of down, but they were not out. And they came back to district play and finished in the top 3, which I think is fitting for Westgate. That's kind of where they're comfortable at.
And then Friday night, I think you had Erath, I believe, at that game.
Yeah.
And that's a team, it's similar to last year, non-select Division III. I covered that bracket a lot last year during that playoff run. And it's kind of one of those schools. And you actually got some insight there because people are always, man, how good is Erath? So I'll ask you, how good are the Bobcats?
Yeah. Those Bobcats, I mean, a lot of people talk about Jack Landry, but it's that running game. I mean, Jack Landry was a huge part of that. He got them going with, he caught for a touchdown, and then he threw for a touchdown on the next drive for them. But then that the 3 running backs, I think it's Jalil Charles, Aiden Bork, and Landon Lemire. I'm probably butchering his last name, but those 3, it didn't matter who got it. And I think the announcer at Abbeville, he didn't know who was getting the ball. He just was like, oh, it's number 6, it's number 7, it's number 8. It didn't matter. They were all just moving. And it was just nothing Abbeville could do to kind of stop it. And that it's hard to stop that high school run game when you get it going and you have that offensive line that's not taking no nonsense in the trenches. That's what happened. And Erath made history last night, 10-0, never been done in this school before, school history. So, and I think they're one of 3 teams that completed a perfect 10-0 season.
And I mean, Particularly too. I mean, you look at like some of those like Abbeville's, they played spoiler. They got a big, kind of an upset win over Kaplan a couple weeks ago. So I mean,
Yeah.
that's a quality win and Abbeville also played Franklinton close. So good job by ERAT to hold on and get that 10th win. Southside, I believe, has a top 10 seed. LCA, we know, is right at the top of their bracket, and more than likely will win a few playoff games here. Who from the 337, just looking back at 10 weeks, teams you watched, teams you covered, teams you heard about, what excites you most from the Lafayette area going into the first round of the playoffs, even though a lot of these teams do have bye weeks?
Yeah, a lot of bye weeks. I'm sure it's going to be a lot of blowouts in this first week. I'm learning that first round of playoffs, it's a slaughterhouse, and I think that's going to be the case. But I think there's a lot of teams that could make a good, strong run. I know Turlings Catholic is one. LCA is one. Like those two are kind of the top two that I'm like, okay, I'm trying to kind of marking them down as maybe they'll make a dome visit this year, because they have the talent and they have the balance of just not just a good offense or not just a good defense. They got both, and they have that the size and the stuff to match it. So I definitely think that the 337 is gonna try to make a run for it this year to have some representation at the Superdome.
Yeah, a lot of teams covered. There's actually going to be a media event in Lafayette on Monday that I know that LCA is helping to put on. That it's kind of like Radio Row at the Super Bowl, and you kind of need it because there's so many programs that have a few weeks left of football to play. So that'll be exciting.
Oh yeah.
So we'll keep track of all these all these teams in the playoffs. But if you want to keep track of these teams, you need to follow Shannon Belt on X. You see it right there on the screen at Shannon Belt 3. Keep a beat on her throughout the playoffs. She'll be going after football for sure to continue covering preps in the 3 through 7. But stick with Shannon all postseason, and you'll get the best coverage of those games in that area. Shannon, really appreciate your time this morning, and we'll talk to you some more as we start getting in these brackets, this battle royal coming up.
All right. Thanks for having me.
Thanks, Shannon. Have a good morning.
You too.
Yes, so many good teams in the Lafayette area, and a lot of good opportunities to cover some of those programs and see where some of those brackets shake out. Time now to talk to Jace Lejeune from Gridiron Football USA. And Jace, you've had really, I look at Baton Rouge, and I'm not the first person to say this, but the Baton Rouge area in non-select Division I seems to be just saturated with 225 teams. But really just kind of starting anywhere. What did you wake up thinking about this morning as far as Baton Rouge football goes?
Yeah, I mean, a lot to unravel. I mean, really the thing that really stood out to me the most is Denham Springs with their win last night against Sam Mall for sure. I mean, that was when really stood out. I mean, the Goldman twins were kind of leading the way. You got, that brother chemistry, right, at quarterback and wide receiver. But it seems like we talked to Coach Beard before the season, and I've said this multiple times. When you roll into a season, you have 40 seniors on your football team. You expect some good things. You expect kind of a make or break year, and that's what Denham Springs is having. 8-2 this year. Obviously they really stood out last night, but how about Catholic as well? I mean, to beat Zachary, 41-7. That was something I did not expect to see. I mean, as far as like how lopsided they won that football game. I know Zachary's kind of had their ups and downs this year, but to be a team like that, 41-7, you're kind of looking at a team right now in Division I select. Okay, who can challenge Edna Carr? I mean, I called that Edna Carr Catholic semifinal game last year, and Catholic could match up really well against Edna Carr. So that could be a team right there, because a lot of people are saying who can beat them, who can compete with them, as they've been firing on all cylinders all year. But I feel like Catholic is a team that could match up with Edna Carr.
Yeah, I mean, I've heard Cass Hard just said, if you get, someday somebody's going to be that in the car, and nothing against them, all the credit to them, coaches, players, all of them, but they got to fall someday. So we'll see if it's this year. And Yeah, it got some feedback here. Like Denham Springs could match up with Zachary in round 2, depending on how some things go there.
Yeah.
Looking at some of those other brackets, I mean, we've talked about Dunham a lot. I'm already can't wait to see some of those matchups and see where between the teams we said, Calvary, Lafayette Christian, other teams that are right at the top of select Division III, Notre Dame, Jules Sumner, anybody. But looking at some of these other brackets, or what teams kind of stand out to you is either juggernauts or potentially a sleeper.
Yeah, I guess if we talk about the Baton Rouge area, really a team that's really been sleeping on a lot of teams this year is Burley. They're 9-1 for the Panthers to have the season like they're having this year,
and maybe like an 8-game winning streak or something like that.
Yeah, I mean, ever since the Plaquemine loss, and Plaquemine's another one, in the West Side, right? Plaquemine, Burley having great seasons. I'm interested in Ascension Catholic. Won their district last night. Trevin Simon's been on a roll running the football for the Bulldogs. And what really interested me last night was actually a loss. North Iberville lost last night to Ascension Christian, which that was one of probably the biggest upsets of that Friday night for them to lose to Ascension Christian. But I'm kind of curious how they really entered the playoffs, because they've lost 2 of their last 3 after starting the season like 8-0. Or 7-0. So yeah, it's going to be interesting to follow these teams, see how they do. Even though Denham Springs took care of business, Sandmall is a team that can sneak up on, especially on somebody and beat them in the first round. Maybe it could be like an upset, can pull off an upset that first round. You kind of look as well. Central has been playing some really good football as well, Division I non-select, and they're defending state champions. I don't think they're as good as they were last year, but they're still really good enough to make some noise and make another run at this thing at the Dome as well. So I think Division I non-select is probably as wide open as it gets. I mean, Ruston's still really good. Neville's still really good, but I don't think there's a head and shoulders team above the rest in Division I non-select. So maybe a team like East Ascension, that when they're on, they are really good. Can they make a run? Can Sandmall sneak in there, make a run? I think Prairieville, what a season they had in their second year in varsity action, making the playoffs at 5-5, and on their second year of varsity action. It's a great story there. So yeah, there's a lot of teams. We talk about the Baton Rouge area that can make a run. I call Episcopal games. Episcopal has been 4-1 in their last 5 games after starting the season 1-4, and I guarantee in Division III select that there's not going to be a lot of teams going to be real excited about playing Episcopal, despite their record. So yeah, it's going to be interesting to follow how all this pans out as we go to the playoffs.
There's a little bit outside of the Baton Rouge area, but have you been able to? And I admit I have not, but have you been able to get a sense of Westminster Christian? I mean, they finished undefeated. They're the number 1 seed. Admittedly, I'm not terribly familiar with their roster. I am familiar with that program,
right?
But what have you gathered from the Crusaders, and are they, can they make it 14-0?
They very well could. I mean, that was the game I covered on Thursday. It was a district championship, and wanted to go see Coach Shiver at St. Edmund, because Coach Shiver helps us a lot with a bowl game at the end of the year. I wanted to say Westminster. We had a lot of guys for the bowl game over the years playing it, so I want to go support them, and they're having one of their best seasons they've ever had. But a name to watch out for just fans out there, if you're a high school football fan, especially if Westminster can make a run and play in the Superdome. Kyle Horde is a name to really watch out for. This is a running back, and I've gotten to know him the last couple of years because he's went to our media day, but he showed up as a freshman. I thought that was one of the parents because he was like a grown man as a 9th grader. But he's the running back for Westminster. He's about 6'2", 220 pounds, and just solid. He's built as good as they come. But not only is a big bag, you kind of look at him as kind of like a big bruising bag, but he won a state championship in track. I mean, in the 4x1. Wow. So he can just pull away and break away from guys too. So when you got that combination of size and speed, he's been a big factor. But Westminster's is a good football team. Stephen George has been the quarterback for the Crusaders the last couple of years, and has been a productive player. He's also going to be one of our quarterbacks this year for the bowl games. You'll get to see him play in the bowl game this year, but they're pretty sound. I mean, they play complementary football. When the defense forces a turnover, offense capitalizes. So they do a great job of feeding off each other. And Coach Porter talks about 3 phases being great at 3 phases, and they really are. And the way that they're playing, Westminster is definitely going to have their say and see if they can go into Superdome, as the road to the dome really runs through them.
Good. Look, I'm on notice, and we'll be really looking forward to watching them now. They've earned that top seed, obviously, with a 10-0 record, and got some talent on that roster. So, congrats to the Crusaders, and you have our attention. Jason, anything I missed before we let you go?
Nothing much. I know we had our last night. We had our Ball in the Boot show. We had a lot of great coaches come on the show. Coach Robert Valdez from St. Augustine came on. We had Westminster. We talked about Westminster Opelousas, but Westminster Lafayette won a big game last night against Vermilion Catholic.
They're in the 22 seed, I believe. They're in there. Yeah,
they're in there. So we talked to Coach last night. And then we talked to Coach Adrian Burnett over at Franklin Parish with a big win over Tioga. So, absolutely your area for sure, Marshall. Yeah. But, a great show last night. We're going to be joined by Spencer Verrett. We have a Monday show now moving forward, as well as a Friday show, because we're going to be having a Road to the Dome show every single Monday. So we get to kind of break down the playoff brackets and see where everybody is at. But obviously we have a Gridiron Football Bowl game coming up, and I know that's a big sponsor of the Red River Roundup here. But
I got some new commitments this week, some out-of-state commitments. Yeah.
Absolutely. So I got to catch up on all that, but we do have a lot of commitments, and we're really ready to go when we have this bowl game at the end of the year, especially a lot of team seasons ending. I've been getting a lot more calls like, "Hey, is it too late to sign up?" No, it's not too late to sign up. So just sign up for the bowl game.
Well, Jace, we appreciate your time this morning, and anything we can do for you, let us know for sure, and we'll stay in touch as we move into the postseason.
Absolutely, Marshall. Looking forward to it. It's like Christmas Eve. We're getting ready for those playoff brackets to be released.
Bring it on. Thank you, Jace. Jace Lejeune from Gridiron Football USA. And, they did get some more commitments in the All-American game. That'll be December 30th at LCU. But before that, we'll stick with Jace. Make sure you follow Jace. You can see his info right there on the screen. Keep you updated on everything, really not just in Baton Rouge, but almost everywhere. And to take a peek at some of the top players in the state of Louisiana that are making it happen in the SEC, or could potentially make it happen in the SEC soon, we'll bring on Caroline McPherson of CInside, the SEC.com. And Caroline, I want to start with what we kind of teased a little bit last week, and that would be a really interesting interview that you were able to score for us, or for you, I should say.
I did. So I have a video posted on my YouTube. I got to interview Ahmad Hudson. And so it was really cool to sit down and kind of see his perspective, because he's a top recruit in Louisiana and he hasn't committed anywhere. Most of the time you see these top recruits and they're all committed already. And so you don't really get that in-depth, well, what do you look for as a recruit? What is it like when you go on these visits? Because they're currently being recruited. So it gave a different perspective. And it was really cool to get to talk to Ahmad. And he also, towards the end, announced when we were going to find out whenever he's going to commit. So it was really good to talk to him, for sure.
Yeah, and I mean, it'll be we've gotten to talk to some Ruston coaches in the past, and he's only a junior. That's like the most bizarre thing to think about, is he's top recruit in football, top recruit in basketball, makes it happen for Ruston on the field, not just hype, but he actually produces. And, in a couple weeks, he'll step on the court as well. So I'm sure that was just super exciting to talk to someone that we could be watching for 10 more years, playing some sport somewhere.
Yeah. It was really cool, too, to hear him talk about basketball. He kind of talked about how he grew up playing both, so he loved playing them. So it's cool to see that perspective. And from what I've seen, he's just as good at basketball as he is football. So as soon as the playoffs end, hopefully they end with the championship, but he'll get right on into that as well.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, I was kind of under the impression that basketball was maybe his first sport or whatever, but with multi-talented athletes like that, they can do it all. So that was a really nice, really nice interview to watch and just kind of hear from somebody that you get to watch, but with you being able to talk to him, you got to, kind of hear him speak and hear his approach to at least football. And we'll be able to follow him in basketball as well. And looking at your Bayou breakout from this week, Andrew Jones, Louisiana kid from the West Bank, and Ole Miss has so much attention right now. Some of it's their head coach and just the attention that he gets, but Ole Miss Rebels, everybody on their offense seems to be, doing what Coach Kiffin is good at doing.
Yeah, so I kind of recognize Andrew's name whenever I was watching the game last week because they were talking about how he came from Grambling. And I was like, I wonder if he's from Louisiana. And I looked it up on my website, and he was. So I was like, he'd be a great one to cover because, I mean, everyone knows Arch Manning. Everyone knows Blake Shapen. But it's some of those linemen and people that aren't making touchdowns every single play of the game. They don't get as much attention, but are also making a huge impact. So Andrew Jones, he started out of Louisiana. He came back to Louisiana. Then he went to Mississippi, but he was born in Louisiana. So it was really cool to see him. I think he is a 5th-year senior or 6th year, something like that. I don't really know with all his eligibility, but he graduated high school in 2021. And so this is his first and last year at Ole Miss, but it's cool to see how he's making a difference there.
Yeah, and really the been quite a week, quite a month in the SEC. Tigers will go on the road to Tuscaloosa, and that'll be kind of the first game of the Frank Wilson era. What are you looking for from this new look Tigers? As a lot of changes on that campus will be coming up, but it starts with a trip to Bryant-Denny later today.
Yeah, it's kind of funny you say that. I was watching the SEC documentary on Netflix, and I was like, half of these coaches aren't even in the SEC anymore as of this season. So it's kind of funny.
Winning records too.
Yeah, but it's Frank. What other way to welcome you to being a head coach in the SEC than putting you against Bama? But I think Frank Wilson is someone that the players respect, and I think they all are wanting. I mean, LSU. They started off the season when I was putting my scores in the other day. They didn't look terrible. I mean, you had, forgot his name, the guy from College Game Day, Lee Corso, projecting that LSU was going to win the entire national championship. And then it was like all of a sudden we lost to Ole Miss and everything just took a turn. Brian Kelly's got to go. So I think that hopefully what we need the players to play together. And I feel like they need to not get as down on themselves because you can feel it. You can feel the momentum shift. You can feel when we're down or when we're going down. And so I think that our players, based on the post or pregame interviews that I've seen, they all seem pretty confident and pretty excited because they have nothing to lose.
Yeah, right. It's kind of just what you need at this point. Just, play hard from their own coach and try to finish strong. So what else are you looking for today? I know you're on the clock working more games, but what will you be covering today?
Yeah, so I'm kind of excited to see Auburn's going down to Nashville to play Vanderbilt. I'm excited to see how Vanderbilt rebounds from their loss to Texas.
Yeah.
And then Texas doesn't play today. I really wish they did, though, because Texas looked so good last week.
I agree.
So I want to see if they can keep that momentum up. But Georgia, Mississippi State, that's the first game of the day at 11 a.m. And so I feel like that would be a good one to watch. But I think we better not sleep on the Florida Gators because we saw how they came out last week and with their new head coach. So there's a lot of interesting games, especially Auburn's first game is without Coach Freeze, and it's in Vanderbilt against Diego Pavia. So there's a lot to look out for today. There's so much going on, and if you don't know where to watch a game or you don't know what time a game is, you can find all that on my website.
See InsideTheSEC.com right there on the screen. Is that a jersey? Do I see a jersey on the?
Yeah, she's wearing her LSU jersey.
Yeah. It is an SEC set. It must be Bama week if even the Dogs are representing the Tigers. Caroline, thanks so much for hanging out with us this morning. See InsideTheSEC.com. Whether you're locked in on the SEC, or you're interested in some of the players from our state that are making it happen in the Southeastern Conference, Caroline's got you covered there. Every week, that site gets more and more crowded, and we love it here at the Roundup. So, Caroline.
Yeah, and I also just launched my women's basketball section too. So if we have any women's basketball fans.
Basketball season is sprinting to the forefront of our minds. So, yeah, I'm glad you mentioned that. Caroline, we'll have you covered on SEC basketball, women's basketball all season long, and we'll really get to see some of her talent shine there when they start tipping it off on the court. Caroline, thanks so much, and we'll talk to you soon.
Me.
Caroline McPherson from SEC.com. Want to thank everyone for hanging out with us this morning. A couple notes that Hayden Lassard did share with us. So there are 2 Saturday games, and I figured there would be. But Higgins and East Jeff play, and then Walter Cohen and Sarah Reed also play. And actually, those games feature some teams that are right on the bubble. So not a math major. So there may be a few things that shake out there in Division 2 and 3 with some of those games that take place today. But thanks for Hayden for providing that feedback. And again, we'll see tomorrow at about noon. We'll see the official brackets be locked into place and see some matchups. But we do have an idea of some of where those top 10 teams will be and kind of how some of these bye weeks will shake out. So it'll be super exciting. And the Red River Roundup will be with you all the way to the Superdome to keep track of this tournament. It's going to be a good one. We've got 8 brackets, and we'll have 8 champions here in just a couple weeks. I want to thank everybody who spent some time with us this morning. Mike McMillan and Cass Hargis from the North Shore Prep Report, Chaston Tavares from the Southwest Louisiana Pigskin Preview, Shannon Belt with the Lafayette Daily Advertiser and 337 Preps, Sean Fox, Sports Talk 97.7, the High School Football Rewind, Jace Lejeune from Gridiron Football America, and Caroline McPherson from SEC.com. Thanks for everybody for hanging out with us. Thanks to all of you for watching. Stay tuned. Next week, we'll recap the first round of the playoffs, and everyone that we mentioned and everyone that we that we featured today. Make sure you keep up with them online. They'll keep you caught up with high school football as well. Again, thanks one more time to everybody watching. Enjoy your Saturday. You've been watching the Red River Roundup with Marshall Leffler right here on 446 Sports.